Welcome to a special Jeff Koinange live on the road in New York. We're in New York this week because you may know the story, and if you don't, here it is. That building behind me has 193 members. 15 of those members belong to a group called the Security Council. 5 of those 15 are permanent members. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, China, permanent members. The other 10 are on rotation. Africa has 3 slots, rotating every 2 years. So the first rotation comes up this January. Ivory Coast and Equatorial Guinea give way to Tunisia and Niger. The third slot, currently held by South Africa, comes up in January 2021. Kenya and Djibouti have both bid for that seat. This past June, Kenya was endorsed unanimously by the African Union. Djibouti, sort of, did not concede. They want to take it all the way to the vote in June 2020. And that's why Kenya has rolled out its big guns, led by Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and International Relations, Dr. Monica Juma, and her team kicked off a campaign to make sure Kenya gets that slot. That's why we're here at the headquarters of the United Nations in New York in the cold with the Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Monica Juma. Dr. Harry, I am so sorry to drag you in this cold. It's freezing.
I am a girl from the tropics, Jeff, and I can't forgive you for this -1, and you're placing me outside here,
Yes.
But I'm glad to be here. Very warm inside and very happy.
Good.
Yes.
Look, before we continue, this bench here is very symbolic, right? Tell us about this bench.
This bench was commissioned by President Uhuru Kenyatta to commemorate Wangari Maathai, who is really a person that lived beyond her time. Wangari was the first woman, certainly the first Kenyan, certainly the first environmentalist to get the Nobel Prize for environment and peace. And there's a lot of discussion about whether a Nobel Prize for peace and security can be given to an environmentalist. Well, Wangari was ahead of her time. You will know that in the last General Assembly, there was a high-level summit that was focusing on climate change and environment by the SG. And during that session, it became clear that the world is facing an existential threat, and that time is not on our side. We have to act, and we have to act now. So this bench is clearly a bench of the future, and we are very grateful that we had the jewel of Wangari Maathai as a Kenyan.
So you're going to forgive us?
And a woman.
You're going to forgive us for dragging you out here on Professor Wangari's bench?
That makes it a little warmer, yes.
Okay. All right, Dr. Harry, look, were you surprised, were you shocked that after being endorsed by the African Union, overwhelmingly, I think it was, 37 votes to 13, something like that? Djibouti would turn around and say, hey, we're going to go for this.
We were a bit surprised because the reason we went for the vote was really to make a final determination on who would be the African candidate in line with our rules and procedures. We have, as Africa, always determined a candidate that represents the entire of the African continent. And between Djibouti and us, we had agreed that having consulted and failed to come to a consensus for 19 months, it was time to let the union help us with a final determination. So this was an agreement between us, and so we were a little surprised. But having said that, it still behooves a country to make a determination on whether it wishes to serve.
Having said that, you don't seem very worried then?
Well, the 193 members will now have to decide. But we hope that before we get there, that the African position will prevail.
Yeah. Tell me something, Doctor. What was the thinking behind rolling out our country's heroes and heroines? What was behind that?
We are a winning nation, Jeff. And this is a campaign not for MFA. It is a campaign for the country. And you know that we value peace and security within our foreign policy. This is one of our 6 pillars. And so, having served 20-some years ago, the last time we were in the council was in 1997-98, we have in the interim amassed huge experience. Within that period of time, we have midwifed the CPA in Sudan. We have contributed to peace in Sierra Leone and Liberia, where we had a distinguished head of mission in the person of General Pande. We have helped transition Namibia and Pande again. We have been part of the process in Mozambique. We have been to Eritrea, Ethiopia. We've been to the former Yugoslavia. We have been at the spearheading the effort to create the African peace and security architecture, served in the council for 3 times. We have been one of the founding members of the United Nations Peace Building Commission, served in that commission since it was established. So we have amassed a huge portfolio of experience and competencies. If you think about humanitarian action, we were among the few countries that deployed a contingent of medics into West Africa after the Ebola. We responded to Cyclone Aldai. We have responded to a number of cyclones in the Latin American region. So we bring a huge portfolio of experience, of competencies that we strongly believe would add value to the council.
So do you feel a little slighted when this resume, which you just rolled out, is being questioned, or is being, what do they have compared to what you have?
This resume has not been questioned by anybody. It has not been questioned. I think there is nothing wrong with a country wishing to serve, as we do, And because the council belongs to all of us, which is why the 193 members of the United Nations vote for its representation, we will let that determination happen there. But we have continued conversation with Djibouti. Because Djibouti is not just a neighbor to us, it's a friendly nation to Kenya. We have worked very closely. I maintain a very cordial and respectable relationship with my colleague, Honorable Mohammed, and intend to do so because that relationship is larger than serving in the council. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with both of us wishing to serve. Yeah. So nothing wrong with it. It only makes the campaign a little more interesting. There are moments of anxiety, as in any election, but we'll take it well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, the campaign you rolled out here in New York is a little unconventional. You brought on our athletes, our heroes, heroines, the Tergats, the Lorupes. Eliud Kipchoge had a message. Bridget Koskei was present. Collins Injera. So it was kind of unconventional. What was behind that thinking? Because they're all peace ambassadors. That's what you're calling them.
They are all peace ambassadors. They all open new paths. They all send a message to the world. A very significant message. One, you cannot substitute for preparation. You cannot substitute for discipline. You cannot substitute for commitment. You cannot substitute for a strategy. You cannot substitute for execution. This is what it is. And we are delighted that our top elites were able to come. A great event, great fun, with the PRs from a number of countries that ran with the elite athletes. And for them, it was a moment to cherish forever. So it is this sharing with the world that we want to bring to the Security Council. We are that country. We want to share, we want to add value, we want to make our contribution, not just to Kenya, not just to the region, but to the world.
Yeah. Kenya's like the flavor right now, the flavor of the month, if you will.
Well, the last 1 week we have had the Kenyan flavor here in an unimaginable way. We have had Kenya's coffee being tested, and we have the very best, really. We had the Kenyan tea being sipped throughout the week and very useful in this weather, Jeff, I have to add, you know. But we also saw our Kenyan flowers. We had cuisine. And I remember Pierre coming to me from a country I shall not mention now, saying, you know, we take beer, we make good beer, but I've just tasted your beer and it is perfect beer. And I said, that's the perfect union we want. We create the beer and we bring it to you. So we were also doing a lot of marketing for Kenyan goods, and I have no doubt that we are going to see a bigger volume of Kenyan tea, coffee, Tusker, and food going out to other places in the world, again contributing to the world and to humanity. Yeah. That's who we are.
Okay, so you have between now and June.
We have between now and June.
What's the plan?
Well, like in all elections, I'm not going to roll out my strategy here, particularly as you know, I have a competitor. What I can confirm, Jeff, is that we have a plan, and it is a good plan. And behind that plan is an excellent team. So I am not worried. I am not worried. I am confident, and I believe that come June, the world, the 193 member states of the United Nations, will give us the mandate to serve the world.
Okay, if you're not going to reveal your strategy, will you at least tell us, are you going to use your resources, as in your embassies, to push for this? Is that part of it at least?
Well, I mean, every ambassador of Kenya, like you saw, including the goodwill ambassadors and the ambassadors of excellence, are in on this. So it's everybody's campaign, and I hope it will be your campaign too, Jeff, you know, because it is about our responsibility to humanity. It is about Kenya's contribution to itself and to the region, but more importantly to the world. And why so? Because we cannot realize our potential as a country without an environment that enables us to optimize on opportunities around us. So peace and security becomes a critical enabler for the realization of the Big Four, for the realization of our 2030, for our desire to become an upper middle class country, and for a prosperous world. Yeah. So really, this is for all of us. So it's not just an MFA strategy. It is an all-government strategy. All my colleagues will be speaking everywhere they go, urging that we get an endorsement, because it is important that we get a legitimate endorsement from around the world, because we will be serving the world.
Yeah. Are you getting the necessary help, the necessary support?
Certainly. I mean, you will know that President Kenyatta has been in the lead on this. You know, if you look at his statement during the General Assembly, he appealed to the whole world. When we were in Sochi, everywhere he goes. So we are all taking the cue from the president. And yes, everybody is hands on board, and we are marching together. We are very pleased that we come to New York with the endorsement of the African Union. You know, so it's not just Kenya. It is about us. It's about the African Union. It's about countries that believe in our vision around the world. And we believe that our vision is shared by all countries. If you have looked at our 10-point plan, it speaks to everybody. It speaks to the big issues, or the global big issues. So, and that is why we are confident that we will get the mandate from across the world. Yeah. Yes.
Look, I want to take a break, Dr. Ari, and come back and talk about, there's a phrase I kept hearing over and over at the launch, at the kickoff launch. Kenya is a safe pair of hands. I want to talk about that and what that means going forward. And also, what's the best case scenario, worst case scenario? I mean, you know, there's a lot of confidence, but it could go south. You never know. You never know. But you're confident, aren't you?
I am.
Cautiously.
I am confident.
All right.
Yes.
It is a chilly day in November here, believe it or not. The sun may be out, but I'm telling you, we are freezing. Yeah. But we are hanging in there with Dr. Monica Juma, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and International Relations, on the bench here at the headquarters of the United Nations in Manhattan. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLIVE. JKLIVE takes a break. We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live on the road here at the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan, New York City. That's the backdrop, the United Nations General Assembly right there. My guest today, special guest, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and International Relations, Dr. Monica Juma. It is cold, it is freezing in November. And guess what? Cabinet Secretary has given me her coffee. Imagine that. That's very kind of you, by the way. We'll share it, okay?
We are a kind people, you know. Sharing
is caring. Yes. So, Dr. before the break, there's a phrase that keeps going over and over again at the launch and for going forward. Kenya is a safe pair of hands. What does that mean?
Well, it means a number of things. It means we are tested. You know, tested in terms of delivery on peace and security. We have over time evolved a peacemaking doctrine, you know, and you can go back to the first United Nations peacekeeping mission to the DR Congo. Kenya was one of the 3 countries that contributed troops, and from that time to today, we've contributed upwards of 40,000 men and women across the world. So we are tested, and we have produced excellent commanders, excellent officers that have delivered peace, have delivered security across the world. Today, we are sitting with a big contingent into AMISOM in Somalia. Again, having helped a country that was in dire straits come back. You know, we had a long Baghdadi process that started in Eldoret, you know, after the collapse of the peace process in Atta in Djibouti. And we underwrote that peace negotiation. We witnessed the creation of the government. We escorted that government to Baidoa and finally to Mogadishu. So we are tested. This is what it means. But it also means that we are able to build bridges, you know, and we are able to forge consensus among big global issues. I will tell you, Jeff, we have been at the heart of negotiating some of the most complicated and important documents of the United Nations. For example, you will know that we co-chaired the intergovernmental negotiations that produced the SDGs. It was our PR for a period of 3 years, painstakingly building consensus and agreement around this. And not long ago, you remember in November last year, we convened the first high-level meeting on blue economy. Again, painstaking work, because we are looking ahead and bringing everybody on board to agree on an agenda that impacts the entire of humanity. So this is who we are. We are consistent, we offer trust, you know, which is very important for multilateralism. So we know how to build bridges, and we are going, as one of our 10 points, you will see, is to help build bridges. Within the Council itself, we intend to build stronger bridges between the permanent members and the non-permanent members. We intend to build bridges between the Security Council, make them stronger, and the African Union Peace and Security Council, between the Council and the EU, between the Council and the regional peace and security architecture. Why so? Because history has told us when we work together, when we have the same definition of the problem, we are likely to have the right solutions and to deliver effective peace and security. So we are tested, we are consistent, we are trusted, and we intend to bring all this value to the Council.
So is this Kenya's moment? Is that what you're saying? Because when you look back, first time Kenya was a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council was 73, 74.
Correct.
20 plus years later, 97, 98, again. 20 plus years later. So every 20, is that like a cycle? Is that what it, or is it just?
Well, you know, we are told history repeats itself, you know. So we hope it is part of that repeating itself. But in the interim, even in the interim of those 20 years, it is critical to look at what has been going on. And what has been going on has been building the competencies, has been amassing the experience. And so we believe that we are at a place that we can grow the value of the Council in terms of a nuanced understanding of the the environment in which we are at, and particularly our Horn of Africa environment. This is an environment that is very dynamic. It's an environment that is attracting a lot of interest and attention, and I think it's a region that requires focused attention. So we believe that we'll be able to bring the world's premier decision-making institution on peace and security to focus on a region that has huge opportunities, but that could have huge portfolio of risk, not just for the region, but for the world.
So what do you tell the critics who say, you know what, they just want to be a part of this prestigious 15-member group? That's all you want to be. What do you tell those critics?
We want to contribute at the premier decision-making body on peace and security because we consider this to be an important enabler of achieving development in the world. And that is why, Jeff, we have themed our campaign as peace and security for sustainable development. We believe there is a critical nexus between peace and security and development. You cannot achieve one without the other, and you cannot sustain one without the other. So this is why we have themed this campaign in that way.
Yeah. Before the break, I asked you the two questions: best case scenario, worst case scenario, between now and June.
Best case scenario is that the council gets good value. And we believe we have that good value. There's only a best case scenario and a best case scenario.
There's no worst case?
No.
You're that confident, or you...
Listen, Jeff, this is a campaign. We are ready for the campaign, and we believe that we are bringing the best value to the world. We also believe that there is a framework for assessing that value, and that the membership of the United Nations will be looking for us to give that value.
And what if some of the permanent members, what if they feel, you know what, maybe it's not Kenya's time, maybe not this time, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. How do you convince the 5 permanent members who are, you know, who have a lot of sway, if you will? How do you convince them?
I think all the 5 permanent members of the council are desirous to have a peace and secure environment. We believe that.
Okay, so let me ask you this. The other 2 non-permanent members from Africa just happen to be Francophone. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but Tunisia, Niger, Francophone. Djibouti, Francophone. Help me understand this, Dr. Ari. What's going on here?
I think in determining the membership and representation from the African Union, we consider each other as equal members, you know, and everybody that comes to the council is mandated to act in the interest of the continent. So we do not pay a lot of attention to is it Francophone, is it, because the mandate is an African mandate. And when you come to the council, it is the expectation that your eyes will be fully focused on the entire of the African continent challenges on peace and security.
Yeah. Some people say, you know what, you cannot compare Kenya with Djibouti. And again, you know, the track record you laid out, you cannot compare what Kenya has done and what Djibouti has done. So this should be a foregone conclusion.
Jeff, the basic principle and the cardinal principle in terms of our membership to the African Union is that we are all equal member states. You know, there is not a small or a big member state, and that is why that argument is faulty. You know, there is not a big country and a small country. Everybody has one vote, and it is weighted the same way. So our contribution is important. Any other country's contribution is important. We are going to put ourselves there as Kenya because we believe we have a portfolio that would add value to the council, and we want to be judged on that portfolio.
Have you ever lost a vote?
To the council?
Yes.
No.
This is why you're taking this position.
Well, you know, facts speak for themselves. I would prefer that the facts speak for themselves.
And facts are stubborn.
And facts are stubborn. But, Jeff, just to say this, we believe that we are capable, we are willing, and we are able to serve the world within the UN Security Council. And so my coming to New York was to deliver a statement about our intention of how we view the world, how we intend to add this value, and fundamentally, without taking anything for granted, to call upon all the 193 member states to give us their comfort, to give us their confidence so that we can serve. I ask for every member to consider us, to vote for us, to support Africa, because Africa has spoken by voting Kenya when we come to June 2020. And so my message is that we are ready to serve. We are able and willing to serve. We are coming to New York as the African Union endorsed candidate, and that we urge the world to support the African continent. Because as you probably know, Jeff, 75% of the agenda of the United Nations Security Council focuses on African issues. So the decision of Africa must count for something in our view. And so we are very pleased and very grateful that, having considered all facts, Africa saw it fit to endorse Kenya to be its candidate for 21-22.
Your turn for coffee.
Thank you, Jeff. But is there anything? No. Remember, I said yes. Sharing is caring, you know.
Before we go to break, Dr. Ari, let me ask you this. How crucial are the next 2-3 years when you look at the picture? When you look at Africa in the next 2-3 years, how crucial is that picture?
You know, we just went into the second phase, into the implementation phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area after it was ratified in Niamey. The promise of the CFTA hinges on the ability to have an environment to grow the volume of trade amongst African countries. And that is why, even within the agenda of the African Union, 2020 has been designated as the year of silencing the guns. You know, so attainment of peace and security on the African continent is crucial for the rest of the prosperity agenda of the African continent. So it is absolutely essential. And so we hope that when the vote comes in June, and when we are given that mandate, we can very quickly begin to prepare ourselves for really adding the value that I'm talking about, because we must focus close attention to creating the enabling environment to create a prosperous Africa, and for that our motherland to claim the 21st century as the Africa's continent. Yeah. So yes, the next 3 years, crucial, very crucial.
Thabo Mbeki is the one who said that, right?
Yes.
21st century belongs to Africa.
Correct. And I believe him.
As do I.
Yes.
As do I.
Yes.
So we're going to take a break, come back and talk about your embassies abroad. You're in charge. You're the person in charge of all your embassies abroad. Indeed. Sometimes you send people, let's say, to France who can't speak a word of French. Mm-hmm. Hold on. We have to touch on that. But we have to.
Do you have to have a dig?
We were doing so well, right?
We were doing so well until this point.
Let's talk about that when we come back. You're watching a special edition of Jeff Koinange live on the road. We're at the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan, New York City, and it is freezing.
I know.
I thought it was supposed to be smoking.
No, it is icy.
Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. We'll be back in a moment. It is icy.